Hello and welcome back to More Moss to the People. This is Asa Nilsson and I am your host. Today I have with me Beth Lease from Pennsylvania, USA. Hi Beth, how are you?
Hi, Asa. I'm so good. Thank you for having me on
Oh my God, I'm
today.
so excited. I'm so excited to have you here. I just love meeting people from all over the world. That's my favorite thing to do is to say where my guests are from. From Pennsylvania. It's like you're this beauty contestant walking
All the
down the
way from Pennsylvania.
yes. So welcome. Um, I wanted to start by kind of giving an idea of where I met you or how you and I connected. And I have mentioned this person's name, I mean, probably 80 times on this podcast already because she is the master connector, and her name is Joanne Higa. And she told me about you when I was thinking about looking for somebody to help me out with some back end stuff on my podcast and social media type things. And so I was introduced to you, and I'm like, you were so nice. You were so easy to work with, super professional. And, I just admire that and love that in anybody. So when you and I decided to do some things together and then started like, wait a minute, I want to have you on the podcast. It's time for you to be a guest because I want people to meet you because I think you got a super interesting story. But first, why don't you get to introduce yourself here now and say a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So, again, my name is Beth Lease. I live in Pennsylvania and I am a podcast coach. And recently, I've been shifting my focus a little bit from working with anyone who wants to start a podcast, which, by the way, I will still do that. But I've been shifting my focus to working with women who have been divorced or are going through a divorce and helping them to raise their voice through podcasting.
Yes.
And so, yeah, right? So, podcasting has been a really big part of my life in the last couple of years. I co-hosted a podcast. I was the host of my own show for a podcast, and now I am sharing all of that knowledge and wisdom with other women who want to start podcasts.
And you are very knowledgeable. It's super helpful. I mean, I have learned a lot from you, which I mean, it's nice. I don't want to say that I don't want to learn from men. It's not that. It's really nice to kind of have somebody on the journey also that's doing the work because everybody's like, oh, you got a podcast too. You've got well, from everybody that says that they have a podcast, it doesn't seem like there's that many people that are like sharing, kind of like collaborating on the podcasts or working with each other or supporting one another. And when I found out that you are a single mom, you're raising your beautiful son Lincoln, you've got a full-time job that you're working all day, every day, and you're doing this on the side, I'm like, girl, you got it going on. And you're a gem and you're kind and you're helpful. And I'm like, that's my kind of person. So the idea of what you're doing in the world, especially, which I think is, I'm going to go back to your podcast first, because um, you did a podcast before about your divorce. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I started a podcast called So I Got Divorced because at that time, so much of my story really stemmed from getting a divorce. So, like, all of the things that were happening really stemmed from the divorce. So, why are you having to leave work right on time? Well, so I got divorced and now I'm a single mom and I have to go pick up my kid. I have to leave right on time so I don't hit traffic and
Yeah.
go pick him up. Or, why are you interested in podcasting? So I got divorced and now I want to share my experiences and my take on what really helped me through that process with other people. And I stopped talking about divorce on my podcast. I went about almost a year with a podcast, but I really felt that at that time, still talking about divorce was not
Mhm.
really helping me in my own personal healing journey. And
Mhm.
so I decided to stop. But I've done a lot of healing in the process in the last year, and now I feel like I'm in a really good place to help support women who are going through the process.
Mm.
But I still look back at those episodes and I feel very proud that I was able to put that out there and I was able to raise my voice
Mhm.
to help other women who are going through divorce or have been divorced.
Mm.
And that was really the whole goal of it, right? I wanted to share my experience so that other women wouldn't feel like they were alone.
Right.
And when I was going through my divorce, I felt very isolated because none of my friends had been divorced. None of my
Okay.
close friends,
Mhm.
like they were supportive, but they couldn't really understand exactly what I was going through.
Right.
And so I just felt really isolated and like I didn't have really anyone close to me that I could turn to who was could like relate to what I was going through.
Yeah. And you mean in your age group? Like, you in your friend
Yeah.
group?
Yeah, so I knew other women who had been divorced, but they were older and had been
Right.
divorced for years and were
Right.
like remarried, had like, you know,
Right. New families,
started
all the kind
a
of stuff.
different
Yeah.
family or
Yeah.
you know, or a new family. And so they just weren't at that place in their life or it wasn't even really recent for them. So
Right.
it was just
Right.
hard to find someone who understood the perspective of like, okay, I get it. It's like really raw and really
Mm.
hard.
Mm.
And none of my
Mm.
friends are single moms either. So there was
Yeah.
that layer to it, you
Do you mind
know,
if I
that was
ask
just
how
really
old you
hard.
are?
Yeah, I'm almost a 37.
Oh my gosh, almost 37. All right, that's a beautiful age also. I love my 30s. Um, so can I ask, when when you were doing your podcast and you said that you did it for a year, and I mean, obviously you were going through your process and your healing process while you were talking about it, did you find that it was kind of keeping you, was it keeping you in a negative place around it? I mean, why specifically did you want to stop with it, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. So earlier in that year, I had started life coaching
Mm.
and life coaching was such a game changer for me and I felt like so many of the mindsets that I had at that time had just been like busted through and it
Mhm.
was great. And I felt like I was making so many steps forward with my mindset and just where I wanted to be. And I had started this business, but here I was still talking about things that had happened in the divorce process and
Mm.
post divorce. And I felt like at that time it was really just it was a big bummer to
Mm.
still talk about divorce.
Yeah.
And I hadn't healed those parts of myself that needed to be healed.
Mm.
So thank goodness for therapy.
Yes.
I've been working hard in therapy
Good.
to heal
Good.
those parts of myself
Yes.
that needed to really heal.
Yes.
And right. So I'm now in a better place where I
Yeah.
can talk about divorce from a really like healed place. And I'm not done healing by
No,
any
that's
means,
a that
but
is a full-time job for the rest of our lives, I think. And I mean, I think about this all the time. Like, right when I think that I got this down. Oh
yeah.
no, there's a new level revealed, like the new, what is it, new level, new devil? Have you ever heard of
Yeah.
that? I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm like, no, I thought I was done. I was thought this was going to be like smooth sailing. I
Right?
remember when I got divorced in around 2009. And, that was a long time ago. And at that time, of course, I'm now 56. So I'm 20 years older than you are. So really, all of my friends that I had at that time in my life, they were all divorcees and they were on second marriages. So I had a lot of support and I had a lot of people around me. And I also then relocated to Sweden, like directly after I got a divorce. So I had my therapy was sitting by myself and having my reckoning with God for a year in total silence. That was my therapy. But I would have loved to have had a podcast. I didn't even listen to podcasts back then, but I would have loved to have had this place where I can kind of just know that there was somebody else that, just like in my head, that was also, I knew that they had me, right? We know that we have each other, and that's the beautiful purpose and intention of your now work in the world, is giving showing other women that they have a voice, to use their voice, raise your voice to say what your needs are, what you want in the world. So tell me this, if you want to talk about this real quick, I want to talk about this tarot card that I pulled, because every time before I do a call with anybody, I always pull one tarot card. And the card for us on this call today was the Five of Cups. And I'm going to show the world here, the Five of Cups. And there's this gentleman that's kind of looking down at these three cups, and cups symbolize love, emotions, and water, and the element of water. And then there's two cups behind him. So the three that have fallen, he's kind of looking at them like, oh man. And then there's two cups behind them that are like, hey, like, look at me, like, whoa, hello, don't forget about me. So interestingly enough, today, was it today that you had posted that reel?
It was yesterday.
Okay, so let's talk about your post that you made on Instagram that you likened this card to, which was so beautiful.
Yes. Well, all of my best thoughts either happen in the shower or in the car when I'm driving. So yesterday I was driving home and I was just thinking of how far I've come really since like 5, 6 years ago, whenever I was getting divorced.
Mm,
And at that time I was seeing a therapist who really understood and could see how difficult that point in my life was. It
mm,
was very chaotic. There were a lot of things going on, and all of it was so new. And so she explained to me that, all of the divorce things that were happening were sort of getting weaved into this like tapestry of my life. So if I thought of my life as this big, beautiful tapestry, when I stepped back and looked at it years later, the divorce part would be such a little part
mm.
of the tapestry. And at that time, I remember, like, crying and be like, "Uh-huh, yeah, okay."
Yeah.
But
Mm,
yesterday when I was thinking about it, it was so meaningful to me because I I can step back and start to look at this tapestry that's my life,
mm,
and the divorce has become smaller and smaller, like a smaller part of that tapestry.
mm,
And I'm still very emotional about it. It still
mm.
makes me very, like, happy and
Yeah.
like, so proud of myself
Good.
of how
Good.
far I've come.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
I completely 100% feel that for you. And that is, that makes my heart go boom, right? For anybody that can see themselves and the steps that they have taken, the courage that they have had to take in your own life, your own steps, so that you could do what you needed to do. And you knew what you needed to do, and you did it. So now when we have the what is it, hindsight is 2020, or now that we have this ability to look at it from a distance, and we look at our tapestry, if we're looking down at our tapestry of our life, where this moment is but one moment, not that it didn't matter, or not to take away any of the relevance or importance of it, but that it was a piece of the tapestry. And that is such a beautiful visual. I think, because I am a visual person, when I watched your video, I just happened to see it today, and I was like looking at it, I was like, oh, Beth, yes, I understand, it was just so, it was nice, it was like sister to sister, human to human, that was just
Mhm.
sharing a moment of, I did it, so can you. I've gotten to the other side, so can you. And we will. We will. And
Yeah.
that's what this card symbolized for Beth, was the cards behind her, and these cards that had fallen, they're all a part of the tapestry, right?
Yes,
It's
exactly. Yes, it
mm,
was so that's immediately what I thought of whenever you showed that card
yeah,
today. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that just goes to show us also that spirit is never too late. That right, everything that we have is right in front of us, and one door closes, another like, one of my favorite quotes is, "Big doors swing on small hinges." So when we
Mm.
have something very relevant in our lives, it seems, of course, humongous at the time, and then all of a sudden it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And all of a sudden, if you could picture it as this hinge on the door of this gigantic door, which is the door of your life, right? Which is the tapestry of your life. Um, I just got chills. The truth bumps again. Um, so now bringing it back to helping women finding their voice through podcasting, how do you see this now? You're going to be a podcast coach. So tell me how that's going to work for you. I mean, how's that going to look?
Yeah, it still looks similar to what it looked like before, which is working with women to start their podcasts. I think the difference now is that the messaging and the meaning behind it is so much different, right?
Mm,
So before I was, I don't know, just helping people start their podcasts,
okay.
which was very meaningful,
Yes.
but it didn't have that like soul like
Mm,
fulfilling thing, right? Like it's still I'm so grateful that I am part of people's story of how they got started with our podcast. That is still very meaningful. But the divorce piece, and when I think back to where I was after my divorce, where was I would describe myself as broken, right? Like
mm,
I didn't know who I was and I didn't know how to advocate for myself and I didn't know how to love myself.
mm,
Those pieces are so important to come back to, especially after divorce, especially after something that's, rather life-changing. And so helping women like raise their voice through podcasting is so important because it really symbolizes to me a coming back to yourself and really like self-love and being able to say, I am here and I'm going to be okay.
mm.
And it doesn't even matter. Like I don't think like obviously people don't need to talk about their own experiences with divorce if they don't want to, but
Sure.
certainly if they do, amazing.
Mhm.
So really it's just if you want to move forward with learning to raise your voice and put it into the world through a podcast, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to support that.
I love that. And you're an excellent support. You're very skilled, like technologically, you're very skilled. And that's why, like the whole more Moss movement is it's a place to encourage people to live their lives in their way. And however that looks for you. And that, how you're doing a full-time job someplace else, and then you're doing this. This is something that you have a passion for, and you still have an income on the side where not the side the first income, which is paying for you to live right now. Maybe one day you want that to transition over, so that I don't know what your goals are for that, but that you are doing this work with love in your heart. You're not doing it because you have to. You're doing it because you have a passion for it and you're really good at it. So using your voice now, if I remember, you said to me when we had our chat before we actually did this call was, um, did you have when you couldn't find your own voice, like you had lost your own voice in the marriage, in the lifetime, and now how you have grown into the woman that you are today and still growing into being whoever you're going to become. Do you have any tips or thoughts for anyone that might be at that place right now too, where maybe I don't dare to say something, or I don't want to speak up because my voice doesn't matter? Do you have anything to say to that woman or man? It doesn't have to be just a woman.
Yeah, right? Divorce and just life things can cause us to just not feel comfortable using our own voices. So, one thing that was really helpful for me was really tuning into my own thoughts. And
Mhm.
so there would anytime I thought that I wanted something or like I thought that I wanted to say something, there would always be this inner voice that was like, don't say that. Like, you
Mhm.
don't want to cause conflict, or, no
This is
one
going to
really
be a
wants to
problem.
hear what you have to say. Yeah. Like, I don't want to make it about me or whatever. So, those thoughts are really powerful.
Mhm.
And so, it was really important for me to start just like noticing, like, just noticing whenever I was having those thoughts. or just becoming really in tune with myself. So lots of mindfulness,
Mhm.
lots of just like paying attention to what was going on inside my body and inside my mind. And really, like, that is so important because without that, our thoughts are on like a constant train, right? They're just doing their own thing. So it's
They're running
really
the show.
important. Yeah, it's really important that we sort of interrupt that and just sort of notice. Like, it doesn't have to be a big thing, especially when you're starting out, because we spend our entire lives on this like automatic, these thoughts are just coming. So we
Mm.
really have to just be very gentle with ourselves and just sort of pay attention to what's happening. And then once you sort of notice that, you can sort of examine those thoughts and then you can work on, reframing them.
Yes.
So
Mindset.
mindfulness and just paying attention is just was so helpful.
Mm. Yeah. And I would also add believing and knowing, maybe you don't believe it just yet, but knowing that you do matter. Your voice does matter. And I think this is a very unfortunate thing. I think that somehow we have gotten some messaging along the line that um, everybody's heard all this before. You're not saying anything new. You don't really have anything super important that's going to change the world. That is untrue. That is not true. Nobody has experienced life like you have. Your life is your experience. And that's why the storytelling, the beauty of storytelling and sharing our stories with the world, that is our duty so that we can leave the legacy in the world. We can leave the world a better place. We can create beautiful relationships for ourselves, and we can have a beautiful life
That
when we start to see our own value.
that's actually a really common thing that I hear with podcasters as well is that, there's already people talking about this topic or
Right?
like, what would I possibly add to the conversation? And that is exactly what I tell them, that their own voice, like their physical like voice
Mhm.
is very unique, and so is their story and their
Yes.
perspective.
Yeah. And
So
that's what people want to hear, right?
yeah.
No, there's nothing new in the news, people. Nobody's saying anything new. It's all about and that is why I just had this realization. And that's what this week's podcast was about, was that I had become so vanilla in my podcast where I was like, I was too concerned about, well, the listener doesn't have time. It's got to go faster. I got to hurry up, wait a minute, what am I doing? It's my podcast. What am I doing? Like codependency. Hello, people pleasing much, like stop the story. Like, don't worry about what everybody else could potentially think. How do I want this to look? How do I want this time between you and I to be? That's what's important. Be here now, coming right back to mindfulness and mastering the mind so that we can slow down and be present in this moment. That, if you can do that in your life, period, that's amazing, let alone on a podcast.
Yeah.
Work in progress, work in progress. Yes. Oh, gosh. Such a beautiful subject. I really admire you, and I admire what you're doing in the world, and I want people to get to know you. That's why I wanted to have you as a guest here, so I can share you with my world. Do you have any last minute thoughts or ideas or anything that you really wanted to say today with me or to me or for us?
Yeah. Divorce was the gift that I didn't know that I needed.
Mm,
I say that all the time, but it's really true. And I could never have imagined that my life would look like this on the other side.
mm,
But I'm so proud of how far I've come. I'm so proud of the growth, the changes that I've made in my life. And I'm so proud
mm,
of, everything I've been able to accomplish, like post divorce.
mm.
So, there is life waiting. Like divorce is not the end. And I would love if I'm talking about divorce. So like come join my story. And like if anything, I just want people to know that they are not alone.
No, nope. I love that. Nobody, and that we're all intertwined. We are all connected. And you have, I'm going to put all your contact information in the show notes, but you have an Instagram account. Is that where you primarily show up?
Yeah, I'm
That,
mostly on Instagram. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. And your handle there is Raven Hair Chica. Yes.
Yes. Yes. You
Yeah.
got it.
Yes. So people can go out right now and join you and follow along on your life, and to see, because you are creative, so you have like really fun things that you post like all the time, like showing your animals, showing things, and which I love, not just being about business, which is good, for me. So yeah, I hope that some people will join you along on your path, and hopefully you'll get some people maybe that want to start their podcast and share their voices in the world, because I know I want to hear it. I'm signing up. I want to hear it. So tag me in your post, tag me in your podcast, people, because I want to also be included on your ride. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Beth. You're a beautiful human being, and I really appreciate you showing up here today, sharing your heart with us. That's showing up vulnerably. That is, to me, that is one of the most important and beautiful things anybody could ever do, and I honor that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And we'll have you back. We'll have you back because we want to get an
That
update
sounds
from you.
great.
All right. You take care. Talk to you next
Okay,
time.
bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.